Hey y'all, it's Summer from Hammond's Nest, and I have a cute Christmas craft for you. We're actually making an ornament out of everything you see here. So the Dollar Tree got me again. I went and picked up some cookie sheets and some wood planks from there. I also had some scrapbook paper on hand and some wood beads. You'll need some Mod Podge and some glue of some sort, hot glue or industrial glue. And then I have using Dixie Belle's chalk paint color and the color Coffee Bean, scissors, wire cutters, and then I'm using some copper wiring as well. The first step is going to be to take one of those wood planks out of the package. And these, like I said, are sold at Dollar Tree. They actually come 6 to a package. They measure 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. And it's a really good deal. So when we're all done with this, you're going to see just how budget friendly this is because of how many you could get out of the materials we're using. So I've actually created like a water-based stain with that paint. I watered it down and I'm just like wiping off the excess. The next step is going to be to pick out your favorite scrapbook paper. You could also use fabric, wrapping paper, tissue paper, all kinds of stuff you could use. And you're just going to measure the square and cut out what you need and get it just right. You might have like a little excess, so that you can see me, I'm measuring here just to make sure that there's not any hanging over the edges. I'm just trimming it right up. The next step is going to be to use Mod Podge. I'm using the matte Mod Podge, and that's going to glue my scrapbook paper, essentially decoupaging it onto the project. So one liberal coat on top of the wood, and then place your scrapbook paper down, and then you'll do another top coat of the Mod Podge. So to seal it in, put that nice and good on there. It will dry clear. It looks frosty now, but it dries all nice and clear. Okay. Once that is all dry, for this step, I decided to go ahead and drill holes for my wiring, for my ornament, but you could probably opt to just use hot glue, anything that you're going to use on the back. That's really just up to you if you have a drill on hand, but I did drill some holes. Now, next you're going to see me measuring my wire. This is the first one here that I'm recording myself making that I've ever made. So I didn't really know how long the wiring was going to be or how long, you could use it however you wanted. Because what's going to happen is I need to measure the wire so I know how many wood beads that I'm going to use as well. And I did use the end of that permanent marker just to give the little curl towards the end there. You can see me doing it on the second one to make sure that it's all good. And that curl actually holds in the wire on that little bitty piece of wood. Pretty neat. So the next step, because like I said, I was doing this just to measure, is to take out one side and then grab your wood beads. Now I have a ton of wood beads on hand. You can find these online and lots of other places, but I'm using a 16 millimeter bead and a 12 millimeter bead, and I'm doing a pattern. So I chose, just to see if I could get it right the first time, which I did 2 12 millimeter beads, then one 16 millimeter bead, 3 12 millimeter beads, then one 16 millimeter bead. And I continued that process until I was happy with how full the top wire was. Now that's not it. So now that we have it measured, we know how many beads we need. And we're going to take some of that same espresso stain that I made with using the chalk paint watered down. So you basically make a water-based stain. And I'm going to pour my beads right into this cup, y'all. So watch, I'm going right down into it. I'm going to use that paintbrush just to swoosh it around. This is the easiest way to paint or stain those wood beads that are so popular. Then you take like an old white t-shirt and drag your beads out on there and then just kind of roll them around and dry all that stain off. So pretty, nice age vintagey look. Goes with my project overall, I think. So I'm really happy with that. Look how pretty. Okay, so now it's time to actually string those back up on your ornament. And then going in the same pattern, I'll repeat just in case, you're going to use 2 12 millimeter beads. That's hard to say. 12 millimeter beads, one 16 millimeter bead, then 3 12 millimeter beads, then another 16 millimeter bead, and continue that pattern until it's full again. And then stick that wire back through there. Now, probably for this step, you could use some string. It won't have as much shape or form to it, but you probably could use some thin twine or something like that if you didn't have the wiring on hand. And then I'm taking the rest of that stain that I have because I love having a nice finished look, and I'm just staining the back of my ornament just to make it all match and make it really nice. Gonna wipe that off. All right. Next, so these cookie sheets came from Dollar Tree. 2 a pack, so 50 cents a piece. And you can see I'm just getting a general measurement of how big my square is. so you can see what I'm about to do next. But I just want to know how big what I'm going to draw on there needs to be. So I thought the easiest way was probably just to measure my square. That way I know what I'm working with. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm getting my thing cut out nicely. Now I just freehanded a tree. You could do any shape you want, but I chose a Christmas tree. So I thought it would look really fun. So I'm just going to cut it out. I am using scissors for this. It's actually a natural scissor sharpener with this aluminum cookie sheet. And it's not, the edges are not sharp because it's so thin. It's not like a Coke can or anything like that, a soda can. It is really easy to work with, but you just have to be careful not to rip it because it's almost as thin as paper. But it's just really neat how it has the raised kind of embossing on it. And it looks like, wait till you see what we're about to do to it. So it's pretty silver, and you probably could leave it silver, but I chose, in line with my vintage look that I have going on, to dab some of that coffee bean watered down stain I had kind of all over. I'm going to let that dry for a minute so it gives it an aged look, and I'm going to actually Mod Podge that on there because I don't want any of that to go anywhere with your finger because you are painting on metal and you probably could rub it off. So I'm just putting a liberal coat, which I know it's going to dry clear. I'm putting a liberal coat of that on there. While that's drying, I'm using a little bit of sandpaper just to kind of rough up the edges because, again, I'm sticking with that vintage distressed look, and I think it goes really nicely to kind of soften the edges a bit. And once you get that all sanded how you like, the next step is going to be to take your Christmas tree and use a little bit of hot glue or industrial glue or whatever you have on hand just to get it to stick. And I chose to center mine. I think it would be cute with a lot of different things, or maybe even 2 trees, one big, one small. And I'm just making sure it's adhered really well. So many variations to this project. Just that whole idea of how budget friendly it is really kind of blew my mind once I started working on it. So, all right, so you've got that. And then lastly, I didn't show this at the beginning, but I decided it needed a little something else. So I took some raffia and just made a simple little bow. And decided to put the raffia bow, glue it at the I was looking at the bottom, but I decided on the top. Put it on the top of the tree with a little hot glue. And then I'm just going to kind of trim up the edges here. Isn't this so sweet? It does not look like it costs, I don't know, I was trying to do the math. I mean, we're talking less than $2 here, even wood beads and everything included. So beautiful. I seriously cannot believe how adorable this one turned out. Well, I hope y'all have a Merry Christmas. Sprinkle this to a crafty friend. Y'all have a beautiful day. Bye, y'all.